Yo, what's going on, guys? Versal here, and today I'll be doing another deck profile, but this one's going to be a little different. It's going to be more of a tournament report because I took this deck to locals the other day, the first time playing this like version of the deck at locals, and I ended up going undefeated, went 4-0 and got first place. So it was really cool to see the deck kind of work as well as I thought it would. And the previous deck profiles I made, like all the combo videos and stuff, would definitely watch those if you want like a more in-depth explanation of like ratios and see how like the combos work and stuff like that. But this one I'm just kind of run through the list, and then I want to focus more on the non-engine that I decided to play. And then at the end of the profile, I'll go into my matchups and how those games played out. But before I get into the whole video, if you haven't subbed to the channel already, definitely do that now. Turn on notifications so you don't miss out on any videos. Drop a like, comment, all that good stuff. It all helps me out. And if you're interested in this Dinosaur playmat or these sleeves, check out finalsaga.de. And if you decide to buy anything, use my code reversal10 for 10% off your order. Anything you buy using my code helps support the channel directly. So definitely check them out. They got a lot of cool stuff over there on their website. I'll leave a link to it in the description. So real quick, just gonna run through the profile. Like I said, I went into more explanations with stuff like this in the other videos. So if you want more in-depth look at it, definitely check those out as well. But just gonna kind of go quick with like all the engine stuff. I got 3 Ovi, Archosaur, 3 Baby, 2 Petite, 1 Misk, 1 Kaito, 2 Conductor, Xeno Package, 2 Ground, 3 Dig, and 2 Pill. So it's all the same stuff. Still 1 Archosaur. I made a video about why I think 1 Archosaur is correct and whatnot. So if you're curious about that decision, definitely check that one out. So next, for the package that made this deck good again, 3 Wanted, 1 Witch, 1 Original, 1 Poplar, and then the Evols, Mega Turlia, Leo, Singularity. This engine's great. It's so good in this deck. I was able to play through hand traps the whole tournament. I was getting hit by at least 1 hand trap in most of the games and was able to extend past it pretty much every time. So these are a big reason for that. And then these just help you layer your board a lot better. So yeah, these cards have been insane ever since been testing the deck and theory and all this stuff. But yeah, this is honestly the best the deck's been like going first since Misk has been limited, I'd say. Even though like not like the format wise, but like how the deck functions. We got the 1 Prosperity. This was probably the worst card in my list the other day, but it was still like good. It got me consistency. It's just like sometimes bandishing 6 is tough if you have like a hand where you're not really sure how it's going to go or how you're going to get disrupted. But the main thing is if you do use this, it does conflict with the Wanted, so you can't like get the extra draw. That did come up one game where my last 2 cards in hand were like a Petite and an Ash, and I was facing Labyrinth. And I had to decide whether I wanted to keep the Ash or keep the Petite to like extend my combo. And I decided to just get rid of the Petite and keep the Ash, since like I wanted to keep an Ash versus Labyrinth. It just ended on a weaker board and it ended up working out. But if you got the extra draw, you don't have to make those tough decisions. So the 1 Call By, I didn't see this in any of the games, so but in theory it's a good card. You have to play it for like Fualos and whatnot. Then I just went by hand traps. I went with 3 Ash, 3 Droll, and 3 Imperm. So everything's the same in this main deck as the last profile I did, except I ended up taking out the Fenrir's for the Drolls. I said in that profile that this slot was like interchangeable, and I was finding like Fenrir is good going first because like that extra +1's really nice, the extra body's nice. But going second, I found into a lot of the decks, the card's just too mid when you do go second. So I wanted a card that was a little higher impact game 1 to potentially help steal game 1s. and I ended up going with Droll just because it's not good into like Tenpai, but it's good against Fire King, which I expected a decent amount of, which there was. It's okay against the Azumina, like Snake Eyes version, depending on how they start. It's good against Fiendsmith. Like one game I faced this Fiendsmith deck. They started off with Engraver, I drolled them, and then they couldn't do anything, so this card performed well. I'd probably keep playing it, but like I said, this is like the one interchangeable slot. Ash was really good. Imperm was great. I had no complaints with them. With the even like 9 hand traps, it's not a ton, but it's enough to kind of make your opponent make half boards. Then you can like high roll them into passing if they have a weak hand. So the extra deck, same exact thing as the last profile. Just kind of run through it real quick. All the evils, the level 6 guy. Dweller, this card was, I made it once, but it won me the finals, so it's a great card. Then just these. Made a video showing where these ones can come up, so if you're curious what they do, just check those out. But these are all good. The princess whale package is nice. Just all this stuff came up for the most part, so I didn't get impermed on Banshee at all, so the Abyss Actor didn't come up. I did use the Barricade Board Blocker once, but other than that, everything else pretty much came up. The double Lars is so like oppressive when you get to make this, honestly. So for the main like difference from like the other videos, I had like a more like functional side deck. It wasn't like here's like the options you can use. Like before the tournament, a couple hours before, I had to like actually make a side deck and go over like certain side patterns. So I ended up going with mostly just breakers because I decided to go with the 9 hand traps in the main, and I didn't want to play more because like the rest of them aren't that good. But went with 3 Dark Ruler, 3 Droplet, because these just gave you the most coverage into a lot of the matchups. And then decided to play the Thrust package, and this was mainly for going first because I wanted to respect Tenpai. I didn't end up playing any Tenpai, but these cards are really good when I put them in. Some of the targets, Duster, Talents, and then you could also thrust for Engine, which is good. Then this next card isn't really a thrust target, but it kind of is, and I decided to play 2 Soul Release. Like I said, I expected a decent amount of Fire King, and I ended up playing Fire King in the finals, and there was, I think, maybe 4 or 5 Fire King players in the tournament, which I think was around maybe 20 people, so like a quarter of the room was on Fire King, so this in theory was a good call. It's one of the few breakers that's actually good against Fire King. In the finals, I lost dice roll game 1, and I ended up winning without seeing what kind of like Azumina like sinful deck he was playing. So I had to just kind of guess, and I ended up putting in the other breakers since I didn't want to put in Soul Releases and then have it be like just a pure Snake Eyes deck with like Fiendsmith or whatever. So I didn't end up getting to side these in at all, but in theory I liked that they were there. I wanted to respect Fire King more. And then some thrust targets for when you go first, which is the main reason I played the thrust. I put in 2 D-Barrier and 1 DDG. It could have been a 3rd D-Barrier instead of this if you like really just wanted to respect Tenpai. But I wanted to throw this in so you could put the thrust in going first against the like Azumina, Snake Eye, Fiendsmith, whatever kind of decks. And I sided in a couple times. I never saw like these together, but for the most part, a lot of the stuff in the side didn't come up too much. Dark Ruler was the one I saw the most, and it was pretty good. But I mostly saw it in the finals when I was facing Fire King, like unknowingly facing Fire King. So it wasn't that good, but it still almost got me there. But I'll talk more about that in a sec when I go over the matchups. But yeah, I think like the way this like sides worked and like with the main deck cantrips, it felt really good. I didn't feel like I was lacking too much versus most matchups, but I might tweak it a little bit in the future. But I don't know if I'll keep playing the Soul Releases, but I think if you want something that's more like generic instead of these, like if you don't think there's gonna be a lot of Fire King, you could just play like Lightning Storms right here and it's fine. But as far as like side patterns go, figure I'll talk about that real quick before going into my matchups. When I go second, I always take out the Poplar and the Singularity, like to start. And then I was doing a couple different things. I didn't have like the same exact things I was siding out every time, like as far as engine goes. Like usually I would side out the whole Ground Xeno package, but occasionally when you do that, you do end up missing being able to go into Meteorus. But usually it's fine. In the finals, I decided to keep these in, and I sided out the whole Wanted package, which I usually don't like to do, but I wanted like just more non-engine because I wasn't sure what type of Azamina deck I was playing against, so I just wanted to have more non-engine to kind of try to cover my bases. And I ended up losing game 2 when I went second, but I almost got through everything, even with like a suboptimal side into like Fire King. But yeah, like I'm still kind of undecided on which one of these packages I like keeping in going second more, since you want to keep one of them in just so you can kind of help extend through certain things, because you don't have Lost World, so it's a little hard to play through hand traps going second sometimes if you're like siding out engine. But yeah, that's it for like the side pattern stuff. So as far as my matchups went, round 1 I played against Sharks. Sorry to my boy Albert, had to do a little friendly fire. Won that one 2-0, won the dice roll. Game 1, I got impermed on OV, I'm pretty sure, and just had like Wanted or some extender to keep going. I ended on like the Dolka Whale Princess Conductor Trap, I believe. He ended up drawing Impulse for turn, which checked the Singularity, but otherwise the board was too much to play through. Then game 2, I don't think his hand was the best, but he made Stealth Kraken and then activated Deck Lockdown, and then activated another Deck Lockdown, so there was a Kraken plus 2 Deck Lockdowns. I had combo in my hand, a Dark Ruler, and an Imperm, and then I top decked another Imperm. So I decided to set the 2 Imperms in the Deck Lockdown columns, and then passed. And then I figured since he's under the Deck Lockdown too, he's not going to be able to do a ton. So he ended up making a Dweller, and then just getting some damage in, and then passing with Kraken Dweller, with the 2 Deck Lockdowns still up for another turn. So I was like, all right, I'm cool with this. I draw, he uses Dweller. I imperm it, so that turns off 1 Deck Lockdown because it was in the column. And then imperm the Kraken in the other Deck Lockdown column, so his board's just done now. And then I OTK him. So that was round 1. Round 2, played against Fiendsmith Valmonica. I've never read a Valmonica card in my life, so that was a little, threw me for a bit of a loop, but I won the dice roll. Game 1, all I saw was Fiendsmith cards, so I really had no idea what I was playing. I got ashed and kept playing, and then the board was enough. Like all I saw was the Fiendsmith on his turn, so game 2, all I know was I'm facing a Fiendsmith deck, and that was it. So game 2, he starts with Engraver. I droll it. He sets 2 and passes because the droll like stopped his turn completely. Then I was just kind of doing my thing. I got to Witch, Kaito, OV, Conductor, I believe. And then I was just like, all right, this is enough damage. I'm just going to attack. And he had a Book of Eclipse set. So realistically, I just needed to make Lagia and then go battle phase. That was still AK. I just wasn't really like thinking in the moment. And I was like, all right, whatever, I have AK, I'm just going to attack. So I got punished. Eclipse set my whole board. I couldn't do anything else. I drew 4. I drew into like Dark Ruler, Imperm, stuff I couldn't use on his turn. Then he ended up making like a Nightmare Griffin board, which wasn't like too much. The Kaito's Floodgate effect, where like you can't attack it if you have more than 2 monsters that aren't wind, came up. So like I didn't die. I don't think I was gonna die anyway, but that was cool, I guess. But I used the Dark Ruler to turn off the Griffin, but he had the like a valmonica counter trap Omni Negate, which stopped that. And since I had a Kaito on field still, I couldn't imperm the Griffin, so I couldn't win that game. Um, if it wasn't for the Griffin, like if I had two outs to it, but they didn't go through, so if it wasn't for that, I probably could have still won that game, but ended up losing that one. Game three, I got hand trapped, kept playing through it, made like pretty much the full board. He had evenly Eclipse and still lost, so the deck did its thing. Yeah, just playing through hand traps and still winning feels good with this deck when usually regular dinos, that doesn't happen. Round three, face Furniture Labyrinth. Not like super familiar with this deck. I know like kind of what it does, but this version hasn't been like super popular as of late. It's more like the 37 trap build that's people have been playing mostly, but since Fualos came out, the Furniture build's kind of picking back up since people want to play like hand traps again. But I won the dice roll again, and then game one, I got hit by a turn 0 Daruma Karma Cannon on my Banshee summon. So if you don't know how that interaction works against Misk, Misk only protects from activated effects. So like when they Karma Cannon you, your dinos don't get flipped, but then you like as the player have to send the cards. So the dinos are gonna get sent to the grave still. So all three of my dinos got sent, and then the Banshee got flipped. And then all I could really do was like make Conductor, and eventually like that wasn't enough. He Chaos Angeled, banishes the Conductor, and then I just end up losing from there. Game two, I'm going first. I get hit by the Fualos, but I had an Ash for it, and then I make a board through what he had, and then that was enough to win. And then game three, this one ended up being like a much longer game than the first two. I had Ash again for his welcome, but he ended up having a rollback that he pitched with a Furniture, so he could just use it again. And when he passed, he had back row, another one that I read as Karma Cannon, which ended up almost costing me that match because it wasn't a Karma Cannon. It was just like, I think it was another welcome. So I was trying to play around it the best I could. I made a Lagia early to try to check it, but I kind of neglected the interaction where you could, when he was going to roll back copy the welcome and then summon the big Labyrinth lady that makes it so my monsters can't respond to the traps. So that kind of made the Lagia useless. And then I made an SP to try to force what I thought was the cannon. And in hindsight, I should have just made Nightmare Phoenix and then just lost an extra card in hand to force it out, and I would have won anyway, because the SP making it so I can't attack directly ended up making it so I couldn't end the game. So that was almost a bad mistake, but if it was the Karma Cannon, I wanted to force it out since I still had gas in my hand, but it ended up not being that, so ended up clearing the board, setting up like Conductor, SP, I think Lars, something like that. And then he starts like playing into my board, and makes Typhon, beats over the Lars. I use Lars to negate the Typhon, so at least the Typhon isn't going to be able to send something on top of it. So came back to my turn, ended up tagging out the SP and the Conductor. So because he was trying to use the like non-target pop to pop my Conductor, I assume. So I chained the SP before that, and I only had one card in hand for my top deck, so he had to destroy that, and it happened to be a Petite. So the Petite gets popped, I get the effect, summon a Ovi, get another Conductor, hard summon the Conductor, Kaito comes back, I make a Dolka, and then get to do that, and then end phase the SP, the Conductor comes back, so he was really low in life. I was in a pretty good spot, and then ended up going to time on his turn. So I don't think I was going to lose that. If I had made Nightmare Phoenix instead of SB, I definitely would have just won that turn anyway. So that's how that game went. That was a close one for sure. And then finals faced Azamina Fire King. I don't think there was Snake Eyes cards in the list. I'm not entirely sure, but there could have been. I lost the dice roll for this one, and game one, he used wanted in draw phase and actually had a droll in hand. So that was a little annoying, but I didn't really care too much because I figured they were going to go for the deception line and droll cooks deception anyway. But he decided to just get the Diabell Star from the wanted and then just decided not to play, I think, because he had like non-engine in his hand, so he thought that would be enough probably. But if he decided to go for the witch, set deception, activate that, add hollowed, I droll him, and then he can't do anything anyway, so it didn't really matter if he played or not into that specific hand, because he showed me that he was trying to go for deception basically before, because he like accidentally added it instead of the witch, so I kind of figured that was the line that was gonna be went for anyway, but didn't really matter. He wanted to just keep his board empty so he could Fualos me, and then I think it was game one where I got Fualos at least, but because there was one game I got hit by that, and I didn't have an Ash for it or anything, but I did like a convoluted combo where I sent Kaito with the Ovi, and then just ended up using like Pill or Hard Summon, and yeah, I used Pill to summon UCT from deck, and then the Kaito came back. So was just doing like minimal draws. I think it was Pill. It was either Pill or Hard Summon UCT. I don't know. It was one or two draws, and I ended on like a few negates and Conductor with some non-engine in hand. So that ended up being plenty to win the game. Game two, like I mentioned earlier, I wasn't sure if it was Fire King or not, since all I saw was Wanted and Diabell Star pretty much, and the non-engine. So I ended up siding in the Dark Rulers and the Droplets, stuff like that, just to be safe, and it ended up being the wrong choice, because it was Fire King, obviously. I put the Soul Releases in my side for this day, just specifically for stuff like this, and it was unfortunate I didn't get to use them. So my hand was pretty bad. I had like Dark Ruler, Thrust, Duster, and then I had Ground Xeno without a baby, and I didn't have like actual combo. Forgot what else was in my hand, but it was like really scuffed. I think it was like a UCT or maybe a Pill, but I ended up using the Dark Ruler to check the Omni Negate, because he ended on the Azamina Omni Negate, the Whale, and then like a loaded graveyard. So I used the Dark Ruler just to check the Omni Negate, even though Dark Ruler is not good against Fire King. Then he ended up like eventually popping off like all the Fire King stuff, floating into all that. The Whale floats into IP. So his board's like full of all this stuff again. I used the Thrust to get another Dark Ruler. I could have thrusted for a Fossil Dig, but I don't think I could have played through the board if I did that. So I thrusted for another Dark Ruler just to check the IP pretty much. And I think Arbata was on the field by that point too, potentially. But I did that, then got to UCT. I had to use the ground and pop like the Duster, which wasn't going to do anything because all I had was Deception, Sanctuary, and Island. So I did that. I got to the Conductor, but the Princess was like the final disruption in the graveyard, and I couldn't get past that. Since I didn't have Misk, my Conductor wasn't protected, so lost that game. Almost got through it, even with the suboptimal side, but it is what it is. It was too much. Game three, I got hand trapped. I still ended on Dweller, SP, UCT, and the Trap, I think. Or Lars. It was one of the... I had a Lars. I don't remember if it was from the Trap or not. I used the Dweller in draw phase. It resolves. So at that point, I'm feeling good. Dweller's really, really strong against Fire King. He starts playing into the board. I use Lars to negate something. He chains Ogre to it, so I only get one negate out of my Lars. I ended up tagging the SP out and his Ponix when he used that, just to try to keep stuff off the field, so it was like islands and stuff weren't live. He ends up getting to Garunix, summons that. It doesn't really do anything besides threaten battle phase. So he goes to enter battle phase. I just flip it with the Conductor, and that's the end of his turn. Then gets back to my turn, and I kill him on the crackback. So Ended up winning that one 2-1, even though I lost the dice roll. So went 4-0, felt good. It's cool to see the deck work like as it intended. Like you've probably seen, if you've seen any of the other videos, a lot of theory and stuff went into making this build of the deck. And shout out my dude Tengu. We put in a lot of work into this build, so it's cool to see it pay off when I decided to take it to locals. So yeah. Hopefully you enjoyed this kind of like tournament report style of video. Let me know if you do enjoy this type of stuff. But yeah, thanks for watching. Peace.